Hello and welcome back to another Let's Backflip Show happy hour. I'm Ryan Fring, co-creative director here at Backflip, and there's not a John today. There's no John. John is actually out in Colorado hunting elk, looking for elk. I don't know. Maybe he found some. Actually, they did. They saw some elk across the ridge, but haven't shot any yet. So they're going to still be out there for a little while. But that's not why you're here. You're here to hang out with this lady. We've got Tara Doyon, and I was like, I should probably learn to say that name before I get on. Okay, I got it all right.
You're good. You're good.
But thank you, Tara, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited. Let's talk about the elk a little bit, maybe sometime. I've spent 2 years working in Montana and it's elk rut season. So I can give you a lot of elk
Yeah.
info. So,
Yeah, so they were a week behind. He was going to leave last week, earlier in the week, but we had a big client conference on Thursday that he had to be around for. So I think he left like Friday morning at 3 a.m. or something to drive out there so they could get in and at least camp by
yeah,
their cars, I think.
yeah. It's crazy. If you've never experienced they're just huge. I live in the Midwest. We have
Right.
deer. So I'd never really experienced elk. They're huge. They're amazing. They're ferocious. You think like, oh, deer, they're not dangerous. I mean, they have like daggers on their head.
Right.
I'm fascinated
It's a
by them.
completely different thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's scary. It's like seeing a seven, wonders of the world is seeing the elk rut. So
Yeah. Yeah.
exciting.
So in what was the context that you were out there and you got to experience that?
Yeah, so my company, Petrus Development, does consulting services for nonprofits, particularly nonprofits in the Catholic Church world. We do a variety of secular nonprofits as well, but we provide consulting to a variety of Catholic entities. And I was working with a parish Newman Center in Missoula, Montana, on a
Mm,
renovation project of their parish. And we were out there doing feasibility study, which is all the prep work in terms of things that they have to do to prepare to raise multi-millions of dollars. And
right.
then we provided the counsel for them through that process. And I went for 4 days every month for 18 months out to Montana.
Wow.
Yeah. Got
Wow.
a
That,
lot of frequent flyer miles built up.
yeah, that's a lot. So
Yeah.
you were out there with them. Is that something that they have experiences out there that you can go see, or how does that work exactly? Or is it just kind of the environment?
So in terms of seeing the elk or
Hmm.
working with him. So you'll probably get to know me a little bit more during this time, but when I go work with a client, I try to immerse myself into the community, the environment,
Mm,
because if not, you are going to get very burnt out. In 2023, I spent 283 nights in hotels. And that has a real capability of just drying your soul up if you
I
let
imagine.
it. But
Yeah.
I really took advantage of all these fantastic places was going and explored the states, the towns, the communities. So when I was in Montana, I hiked a lot all over the state, but I spent a lot of time in Yellowstone National Park.
Mm,
And that's where there are pretty large concentrations of elk, and a lot of them are tagged, and just a lot of information. And that's probably where I witnessed the most elk activity and got to learn a little bit more about their behavior and just their environment. And that's in southern Montana, south central
oh,
Montana,
okay.
along the Wyoming border. I was working more about 2 to 3 hours northwest of that, closer to the Canadian border, closer to like Glacier National Park. I feel familiar, but
Sure.
if I had any time, I would try to drive down to Yellowstone and just really explore that area as well.
Well, it's great you get to be able to do that stuff. That sounds brutal to be, 280 nights of 365 in hotels. That's a lot of extra work. And I think people who don't travel might not really understand what all goes into travel. And we get to travel some, and it's, you wake up, you go do your day of work, but then oftentimes afterwards too, there's work with the client, schmoozing,
Yep.
dinner, whatever, events you're probably going to. And for us in production, we often then have to unload cards and prep gear and get ready. So,
Hmm.
you're not having an 8-hour day when you travel, you're having a 14 or 16-hour day, and then you're rinsing and repeating. And while you're not doing production, I still imagine, when you're traveling that those days are much longer. So how do you do that?
So someone actually just asked me. One of my friends just asked me. He just finished an MBA and he was exploring what his next stages in life were. And through the MBA program they brought in consultants, and everyone wanted to be the consultant. But he said, I don't ever want to be a consultant because I saw like these consultants, they were just haggard and weary. But I see you here exercising and you're not like that. So
Yeah,
a
you're
couple of the
surviving and
things. Yeah,
thriving maybe?
yeah, yeah. So one of the things for me is I have a good faith life. I mean, that's like
Mm,
the bottom rung, the base of everything is I have a really good solid faith life. And
that's
lots of
great.
times I get an opportunity to work at churches. And so I get to go to daily mass and church services and just also surround myself with people of integrity and good faith. I think that's really, really important. So lots of times in the business world, you don't have that.
Right, right.
My world is a little different because I do have that. So that's one thing. The second thing I think is understanding what I need to keep myself healthy. And if that's sleep, like learning good sleep hygiene patterns for hotels, how to keep your shades closed with the pant clip hanger of your,
Pro
the
tips.
hanger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sound machines, those sort of things. Eating really, really healthy. It's really, really hard to eat healthy on the road, but knowing that and planning accordingly is important. And then exercising, it's really, really important.
Mm,
And besides just exercising, I always try to have some sort of race or competition that I'm signed up for, and that
mm.
just helps me keep me
It just kind of
accountable.
forces
Yeah, yeah.
habits.
Yeah. So those sort of things really make it easy. And then at the end of the day, also having a family that I come home to that is
Mhm.
supportive of me being on the road. I have two daughters. They are in their 20s. One's out of college, one's finishing up her senior year of college, and a husband that is really supportive at home. And so I think I never have that guilt from the parties at home saying, oh, if you were here, we could have done this,
Right.
or, and that keeps me really healthy and going too. And it allows me then to go to these communities, have fun, explore, meet new people, and feel really good about what I'm doing on the work end as well.
Yeah, I mean, talking about family, how is that? Like, how did you figure out how to survive that? Because, I think in general, family is just hard in many cases, but then being away is tough too. And when I travel, my wife and I don't really ever talk on the phone. Like, it's just not a thing we do. We'll check in and be like, hey, how's it going? Good, good. Okay.
Yeah.
And we might text or something like that. So being away, there's almost like a disconnect for us, and then being back in person, it's like, oh, I remember you, I like you. So
Yeah.
yeah, how have you dealt with that, in your family?
So I think probably from the very beginning, our dynamics lend to that as a healthy relation, part of
Mm,
our healthy relationship. Um, I am a very, I am my husband would say this, and it doesn't sound, it's not derogatory. I am the alpha probably in our relationship. I'm the extrovert. I'm the one that's
sure.
always making the plans and kind of the decision driver maker of our
Hmm.
family. And he is very comfortable with me in that role. And I am very comfortable in his role. And we approached parenting very similarly. Like
Mm,
I remember when my kids were little, they went to Catholic school, so we had to pack lunch every day because they didn't
hmm.
have hot lunch.
Yeah,
Um,
the brutal
you
battle
know that?
every
Yeah,
night.
yeah, yeah. So my husband was the husband that got up every morning and packed lunch, so I could be getting ready and then get them ready. And all my friends were always shocked that he would do that, but that is
Ah,
just I think the dynamics that we have always been comfortable with from the very beginning.
yeah.
And we're very comfortable doing things separately and then enjoying them together. And that's
Mm,
just our personalities. And so
yeah.
I think from the very beginning, that is a little bit of the dynamics that we set up. Now, I will preface this by saying I did not really start traveling like I am now until my daughters, one was in college and one was in high school. So, everyone could feed
Oh, sure.
themselves,
Yeah.
everyone could get themselves dressed, they were driving, those sort of
Yeah.
things. Um, really were good. My husband loves sports. I hate sports. So it is a great opportunity when I'm not there that he can like binge on sports. And then when I'm home, I'm not resentful of him because he's watching
That's
sports because
great.
he's happy to see me. And so
Yeah.
it works out. It's not for everyone. I 100% know that
Yeah.
it can kill a marriage. It can be
Mhm.
stressful, but for us, it really works.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with like a day or two,
Hmm.
like just especially with the noise. Like I have, how many do I have? Seven. Seven? I have seven kids. Wow,
Yeah.
that was,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have had to question that. But
Counted. Yeah.
just the noise is a lot.
Hmm.
And so being away can be nice because then it's quiet. But then, within a day or two, I'm like done. I'm like, well, I don't want to watch TV. I'd rather hang with my loved ones or be
Yeah.
present with someone. Again, if you're traveling too, coming up with people to hang out with, whether it's your client or other people
Hmm.
out there. So it's more active and maybe more time consuming than people would think. So yeah, with that, do you talk on the phone a lot? Do you FaceTime? Like, how do you kind of
Yeah.
handle that?
So I am a phone generation. You're younger than me, so you're probably not as comfortable on the phone, but we're middle aged, so we still communicate via phone.
Hey, I
Um,
am absolutely middle aged, and I went to the barber, and I was like, "Hey, I need a haircut," and he was noticing. He's like, "Hey, your gray's getting a lot more prolific," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I need a haircut."
yeah, yeah, no, no. So yeah, we talk on the phone. We talk on the phone. We text usually. A typical day would be a call as I'm getting ready in the morning. I'm on the road in the hotel. How'd
Sure.
you sleep? All those sort of things, and then text throughout the day, and then at night talk, and then my daughters now. I talk to them every day on the phone, at least
Mm,
once, sometimes twice. I have a daughter that I live in Indiana. I have a daughter that lives in Florida. I talk to her every day on the phone, FaceTime her at least a few times a week. Um, but I'm still very, very connected with both of them. And even though they don't live here, and I know
that's awesome.
it may seem like little hovering, but it's just the relationship we have. We'll call and say, "Did you watch this on TV, or did you hear about this?" Or I send them a TikTok or something. So I don't feel that disconnect. I think that some people do, just because we had already really established these communication patterns.
Yeah, I feel like I need to work on that just in general. Again, like we definitely grew up on a phone. That was the only way you communicated. Like, the phone
Hmm.
rang, or you had to pick
Yeah,
it up to call somebody. You couldn't text. So
yeah.
I'm with you in that as well. However, relationally, like I just never liked talking on the phone. Like I'd rather hang out. Just kind of a personality trait.
Yeah.
Whereas John, who I don't think you've met, he other co-founder here,
Hmm.
he and his wife had a long distance relationship through college, and
Okay.
so they spent every day on the phone
Hmm.
constantly. So even now, throughout the day they'll talk to each other 10 different times or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I might have a few texts with the wife, but I kind of recognize a desire that I have to be better about that,
Hmm.
despite loving to talk to people and loving to interview people and, ask people questions. It's a weird different headspace, like I don't know what it is, like because it's the noise when I get home or
Hmm.
just the work that I have to do when I get home. I'm less inclined to think about, okay, how do I step out of my comfort zone and have a conversation?
I think that's okay though. It's a little bit about understanding where you are and what contentment you have right now.
Hmm.
What
I
you have
appreciate
going
that.
on in your life now and your communication style is very much dictated by your work, your interactions, your conversations with your having with clients, and then a multitude of kids. There's always chatter and noise.
Hmm.
You will get to a point where things will be different, and you will learn to re-communicate, or not re-communicate, but communicate in a reevaluated way.
Hmm.
And I think it's okay to don't discredit yourself. If your wife is feeling heard and communicated with, and you feel content with that, this what works for you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the challenge, right? Feeling heard and communicated. Because I think a lot of times throughout the noise, we don't feel that. And then like it was yesterday, like just a crazy day. And then we went to bed. I don't know what time, 9:30 or something. Which I try to get to bed like 9 because I wake up pretty early to work out. But 9:30, and I was like, "Hey, I could tell you're in a funk. What's up?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk about it." And then I was like, "You could tell me." And then we proceeded to talk for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it was great because, part of it was nice out. She wanted to hang out on the porch and have a drink and just hang out, but we couldn't because it was crazy.
Yeah.
So we hadn't kind of touched base in a couple of days, and then it was nice because we found kind of our quiet moment
Hmm.
when all the kids were in bed, the baby's sleeping, and we're just able to chill out and have a simple hour and a half conversation, with no other pressures. Because for me, like even when I'm at work, I'll be working and I'll get a phone call, and if
Yeah.
it's like personal, it's hard for me to switch that into that
Hmm.
mindset. Versus if it's all work related, it's pretty easy for me to switch that. And maybe that's like kind of a mental trick I need to work on, kind of not set up barriers of different types of conversations. Be like, no, 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 I should be able to switch my mind. But I think and maybe that just gets into like task switching difficulty,
I think it's man brain too.
Man brain.
Man
Yeah,
brain is
yeah.
a little different. We're
I'll
different.
own up to that. Yeah.
We're different. And we get frustrated with each other when we have certain expectations that are not met. And lots of times
Right.
those
Right.
expectations are just that we put upon ourselves. We presume someone feels this way.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
presume someone needs to react this way. And
Yeah.
when things don't pan out that way, that's when frustration and, um, bad language and attitudes come into play.
Right.
So
Right.
I think, it's okay. And there are going to be business gurus that tell you absolutely have to have these boundaries, and it's important to have the boundaries, and you have your work life and you have your personal life, and they shouldn't
Hmm.
interact. But the reality of the situation is no one acts that way. We're humans. We can't
Yep.
compartmentalize that way. It's not healthy. So
Right.
in my opinion, I think it's better to be able to healthily integrate those two worlds, because they are overlapping, especially when you're a small business owner. I
Right.
feel this way with our business. It'd be different if I went to an office and I worked for a Fortune 500 company and I did my work and I came home. But
Mm.
I have clients that call me at night and they have personal issues and they have professional issues, and it's all melds
Right.
together. And it really is different, I think, from the small business owner perspective. And then you throw that ministry piece into it, that
Mm.
changes the dynamic even more.
Yeah. Well, and like you said too, kind of thinking of the corporate world, or more so like non people related work.
Hmm.
So I think whenever there's people related work, like what we do, you're always going to have that because like you have to be personable,
Hmm.
right? So you can't have business in person,
Hmm.
your kind of private life. It's all integrated. And this is a kind of a roundabout way to a funny story, but like who I am here is who I am at home. And if you were to come here and interact with me, or come home and interact with me, like you're going to get the same version of me because I'm not different people. And I think that's a I don't know, maybe kind of that novel idea of, well, you keep working your private life separate, but like work is personal.
Hmm.
So it's always going to be integrated. But I was thinking about who I am, how I do things, what you do on your computer and stuff. And I got this email that was like phishing, and this has been going around. And they're like Ryan, and they put like one of my old addresses in there and a social security number that was incorrect. And then they had some document in there, and they're like, "We've been watching you. We placed this on your computer. Now we have all your history, and if you don't pay us 2,000 in Bitcoin, we're going to release it all." Needless to say, I didn't reply, but I was like, that's really interesting. Like, I'm sure for 80%, 90% of people, like that could work. And that got me to thinking, like, yeah, anyone can come check out my search history. Like
Yeah.
anyone who knows me will have, will see it and be like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you were watching some anime, and then you were doing some bodybuilding stuff, and then you're researching this brand for a client, and then you're developing this video, and then you watch a like you see kind of the eclectic things, and like there's no shame in there. It's Who I am at work is who I am at home. Like
Yeah.
there's no kind of
Hmm.
distinction per se in the personality of, what
Yeah.
I'm searching at either place. So there's no shame.
Yeah. No, I see people on social media um, talk about, you know, conflicts and fighting with people, and they're
Mm,
just so bogged down, and I'm thinking, what are these people what sort of a logarithm have they been caught up in? Because I'm watching dachshund videos, vacation
right.
videos,
Yeah.
my
Food.
marathon training. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's I love it. It's pretty fun for me.
Yeah, what have I've been getting, advertised probably more businessy stuff lately. And then I saw a friend's post and I was like, wait, I haven't seen like any of my friends' posts. So I was like, kind of mad at the algorithm because
Yeah.
while I do like all the business stuff, productivity and things like that, I was missing out kind of on engaging with friends. I wish,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's a dial you could turn up and down. But you mentioned a marathon, you mentioned it earlier. That's a cool thing
Yeah.
I'd love to do. Tell me more about that. Why are you so crazy? I mean, that's crazy. Marathons are
Yeah.
crazy.
So during COVID, I decided that, like everyone in the world, I was going to go insane if I didn't like move my body and work. And especially as an extrovert, when you're
Mm.
stuck in your home, and
And you have this energy. You're like, what do I
yeah,
do?
it's so I was like, okay, I have to start doing something. So I really started exercising, and
Mm.
I am not an exercise type person.
Okay.
I was like the kid in high school that probably should have failed gym class because I could never finish the mile run in the appropriate
Mm.
time. Like I don't like exercising. It's not fun for me. I didn't like to sweat. I am not that type of person.
Mhm.
But I had to do something. So I really started I started walking, I started doing some runs, I started going to a Pilates studio and doing a lot of
Mm.
stretching. And I realized that when I moved my body, it helped my mental capacity. It just like
Yeah.
turned
Yeah. Right.
your
Right.
body, my body moved, my mind moved, everything was better.
Right.
And so it just became habitual, and started doing all these different activities. And I'm a very competitive person, and
Mhm.
I'm always like trying to do something new and different and hard. And so I was like, I'm gonna run. And my husband was like, you don't run. You don't run, you don't walk, you don't sweat, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just started training, and I did like the couch to 5K program, and just would
Oh,
run
cool.
outside. And
Yeah.
I did that all through, the spring of 2020. And I'd signed up for my first race, which was a 10K that got canceled, of course. And so that was a real big bummer, but it's life. People lost a lot of things. Wow, I didn't get to do a race. So
Yeah.
I just kept running. And I I don't love running. There are people that love running, and they talk about this runner's high. And
Right. Right.
um
I think there's two kinds of people. The people like us who are honest, who don't like running, and then there's people who are dishonest and pretend they like running. I really do
yes,
feel
yeah.
like there's only two types of people.
Yeah, so, but it's something that I can do. Like, every hotel from Amarillo, Texas to New York City has a treadmill.
Mhm.
And so it
Mhm.
was just one of those activities that I could do. And I knew that if I signed up for a race, then I would train and hold myself accountable. And I hate running, but there is nothing more exciting than crossing the finish line.
Yeah,
And
sure.
one of the things, like, I hate treadmill running, and I try to run outside when I
Mhm.
can, but sometimes you're working on your speed, or it's hot weather, cold weather, whatever. So
Yeah, and
at
and
my
not being
gym,
familiar in a place.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But my gym, like, we have these treadmills that have these TV screens, and I never have them on, but then it's like a blank screen, so it's like a mirror. And I'm always thinking people probably think I'm a complete idiot when I'm
Ah.
running on the treadmill, because I'm like smiling the whole time, because I like envision
Smiling,
myself.
looking at a blank screen.
Yeah, I envision myself crossing the finish line, and like
Oh,
cheering,
nice.
people cheering. And that's just is very motivating. And that there's something very satisfying knowing that you did something hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like you said that kind of at the beginning of this section on running, like doing hard things. Like I love that. Like
Yeah.
I always want to encourage myself and everyone around me to do hard things, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whether it is physical, and I think everyone should do some physically hard things because let's be honest, the rest of our lives are physically not demanding,
Hmm.
and our bodies need to be pushed in order to grow, in order to develop, in order to get better, and our minds the same exact way. So
Yeah.
always learning, always pushing into something, always doing
Hmm.
challenges,
Hmm.
um, doing hard things, I think is really good. But
One of my
yeah.
goals for myself is I do one new hard and different thing a month.
Mm,
So whether that
that's
is
great.
read like a book that, like, I feel like everyone should have read Moby Dick. Everyone talks about like, oh, you should read Moby Dick, but no one really wants to admit that they don't haven't really read it. So like, pick up a hard book that you don't want to read. So that's a hard
Yeah.
thing. This month, coming up in October, I decided that I wanted to do some rock climbing. So in my
Mm.
younger years, I
Oh,
did a
that's
lot of
amazing.
rock
I
climbing.
love rock
I loved
climbing.
it. It was fun. I haven't rock climbed in 30 years.
Mm.
So I just decided that I was like, I told my husband, I'm like, my one hard thing that I want to do this month is rock climbing, and I'm like, do you want to do it with me? Goes, no, I don't. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the gym. We have a gym in town. I'm
Nice.
gonna go. I'm gonna sign up and do that. So I think it allows us to feel comfortable with the uncomfortable. I
Mm.
mean, life is uncomfortable. We
Yeah.
encounter things that make us uncomfortable every single day. But when you become comfortable with feeling nervous, shy, having anxiety, it allows you to take that power back and harness that energy
Yeah.
into something really good.
Yeah, and there's this idea of, and it's with children. It's from the book Coddling of the American Mind. I don't know if you've read that. That's a good one
Mm-mm.
to read.
Okay. Okay.
Um, what is it? Jonathan Haidt, and I forget the other author's name. I think one's conservative and one is more liberal, but they wrote this thing back in 2016 about issues that they were seeing in universities and kind of a philosophy that was being promoted. And there's like the three great untruths: what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, us versus them, and I always forget the third one, but maybe it'll come back. Um, but that idea of, you know, not doing hard things, of having safe spaces, like you
Mm-hmm.
can't ever be challenged with your opinion or your philosophy or anything because that's a microtransgression, microaggression,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's bad and all that stuff. And we really see that there's been this fragility that was kind of created where
Mm-hmm.
people can't deal with very simple things, and the idea that we're trying to prepare the road for the person as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to the person for the road. And I think when you do hard things, you prepare yourself for the road. Like you're saying, when you do a lot of hard things, unexpected things, you're more prepared for the unexpected, or you're more prepared for
Mm-hmm.
those hard things that come along. You can mentally deal with them, you can physically deal
Mm-hmm.
with them. And so it's so key to do those. And in many cases, since we don't have to fight so hard to survive, we have to do that artificially.
Yeah. It helps you build empathy too. I mean, in my
Mm,
role as a consultant, when I go in and work with clients, I'm guiding them to do hard things. I'm guiding them
mm,
to make changes, to potentially encounter people that they're not comfortable with or
mhm.
situations that they're not familiar with. And I can come to them from a place of, I've done this, you can do this. Here are some strategies that I've used to maneuver through the situation. And when you have that perspective, it's not just me telling someone what to do, it's me helping them find the solution on their own, which makes it a sustainable solution.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Helping them figure it out, and empowering them, but also sharing your own experience and your own triumphs, I think is invaluable because nowadays, like everyone's a coach, everyone's a
Yeah.
life
Yep.
coach or whatever,
Hmm.
a business coach. And you're like, but wait, you haven't built any businesses. How are you a
Yeah.
business coach?
Yeah.
So I get a
Yeah.
lot of that noise, but then I try to filter it and I'm like, okay, like Alex Hermosi is a guy that I've been listening to recently. And I think he came up because he created a bunch of gyms and then trained other people how to be successful in their gym marketing. And now he has 4
Mhm.
businesses and he's wildly
Okay.
successful. And he shares what he found to be successful. And that's a direct model where you can look and say, yeah, he did these things, and I can see the success that came from that, or how I can adapt that to me, how I can do those hard things,
Mhm.
and I can benefit from that because he's shown his experience versus just, yeah, here's how you do it, and here's how you build a big business, even though I don't have a big business.
Yeah.
Hard to
Yeah,
trust that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so marathon training too and travel, how does that work exactly? I mean, you can run anywhere, but that starts to take up more and more time, right? Because you'll get up to a 13, 15, 18
Yeah.
mile run.
Yeah. It goes back to time management. Like sometimes you have to drag yourself out of bed in the morning after you've been working late at night, or at the end of the day when you get back to your hotel, like you just want to take your shoes off and lay in bed and watch TV, but you just force yourself to do it. It comes down to discipline, and knowing what you've committed yourself to. And that's for me. Um, if you would ask me, do I consider myself a very disciplined person? And I would tell you, no, I just ate a half a pan of brownies. No, I have no discipline. I mean, I have a sweet tooth. I'm never going to stop eating those sort of things. But by having a race or something that I've committed to holds me accountable to do that. And
Hmm.
so I think it's important for everyone to find what works for them in accountability purposes. There are going to be people that exercise because they love it, it's part of their lifestyle, and they don't need to train for anything particular. It's just who they
Hmm.
are. That's not for me. That's not me.
Hmm.
I wish it was. I've been doing this. I've been doing some sort of exercise pretty faithfully every day for the last 4 to 5 years. It's still not me. It's not who I am. I don't get up every day and
Mm.
say, I love this. This is great. I love my classes that I go to. I like my community that I'm a part of, but it's not me. So I think it's important to just understand what motivates you, what gets you individually going and allows you to do that.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that too, because I probably find myself on the other side of that coin where I am like, yeah, I am a healthy person. Like, over the last 4 years, like that is part of who I am. And it's because I think about one thing, I'm very analytical, and started listening to a lot of trainers and scientists, and the good kind, not the
Yeah,
scientism
yeah,
scientists,
yeah, yeah.
the training scientists, the
Mhm.
nutritional scientists,
Yep.
um, fitness and whatnot. And they just started saying things, and several of them said very similar things. And then I kind of started to learn that, oh, this is kind of where our understanding of all this is. And part of it was the idea of the quality of life for your terminal decade. So your last decade of life, what do you want that to be like? That
Yeah.
hopefully that's not anytime soon, but when you're 70, when you're 80, maybe 90, do you want to be able to walk from your bed to the bathroom? Do you want to
Yeah.
be able to wipe your own butt?
Yeah.
Do you want to be able to get out of your house?
Mhm.
Um, and thinking about that, and not having to have limited amounts of medication or anything,
Mhm.
it really just kind of got ingrained in me that, like, yeah, that's what I want. I want
Yeah.
to have a great quality of life now and when I'm old,
Mhm.
as old. I was going to say old as grass, but that doesn't make any sense. What's a good metaphor? Just really old,
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
grandpa who's 90.
Yeah.
Um, and so getting into the training, getting into the
Mhm.
supplements,
Yeah.
and into the science, has definitely become a part of who I am.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated, with the blue zones. Are you familiar with that concept?
Mm-mm.
It's like the blue
No, it
zones
sounds
are
interesting though.
different pockets, geographical pockets across the world where people have like the longest lifespans. And
Oh,
so
okay.
definitely goes back to exercise, physicality. Part
Mm-hmm.
of it also is genetics. I mean, genetics play a role in this. My great grandfather died when he was 105, and he ate bacon every single day. And his wife cooked with lard, like real lard.
Yeah, sure.
So at a certain point, there is that genetic component. Like there's
Yeah.
people that have good
He's
genes.
immune to cholesterol.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a portion of it. But then, environmentally, a lot of these communities have a very strong component. Part of the community living is being outside, working outside, grounding, your hands, your feet, the dirt, the soil through gardening or just outside activity. Um, your diet, a lot of good vegetables, like really colorful vegetables.
Right, right.
Your lean meats, they're not vegetarian communities. We hear a lot of the red meats and all those sort of things. And I am a person that believes that a healthy diet is a very diverse diet with all these different components. So to see these communities reflected in the types of
Yeah, see the
foods that they're
reality. Yeah.
eating, I think that works. So I'm just fascinated by these, and so a lot of the cooking has to go back to whole foods, good omega-3 fatty acids,
Mhm.
all those sort of things, and then also the idea of intermittent fasting. I'm fascinated by that.
Mm.
Um, that our bodies are not everybody's a little different, like everyone's different, but a lot of our Americanized white Caucasian bodies are not we're not necessarily meant to eat 24 hours a day and
Mhm.
continually have this reaction within our bodies where our organs are consistently trying to process food. And so for me, I do intermittent fasting
Mm.
pretty regularly, and try to eat a whole food diet when I can, but yet I will certainly eat a Doritos at the tailgate.
Yeah, you're not crazy
So
about it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, and I
But
think that's
that's what works for me.
well, I was gonna say, I think that's probably the only way for it to be sustainable.
Yeah,
To have, have some rules and some really good guidelines and be there 90% of the time, 95% of the time, and then be a regular human being the other
yeah,
5% of the time and not annoy people around you, which I
yeah.
try my best not to do.
No, so
Mm.
my niece and nephew never had sugar. Like my it was like sugar was off the table.
Hmm.
Um, no treats
Like added
ever.
sugar.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
natural sugar is fine, but like candies and all those things were
Yeah.
totally off the table. And I, with my kids, and every family's different, and I'm no judgment, because parenting's hard, and the last thing we need to do is feel shamed in how we've
Yeah.
parented. But for me, I was always like, it's okay to have it as a little treat once in a while.
Yeah.
And my kids would always, oh, can we have this treat, or can I have this candy? And if you gave them an option for it, they sometimes would not choose it because it wasn't that big deal. It wasn't like this thing that they had to
Yeah, you
have.
kind of normalize it
Yeah,
versus
yeah. And my
stigmatize it.
nephew,
Yeah.
I remember anytime that he could have any sort of candy, it was like he would eat it entirely because he never knew he was going to get it again. And so, I
Right.
think it's important we don't live in bubbles. We don't live
Right.
in these perfect harmonious world, and so it's important to model those sort of things with your kids, because then they also learn to develop healthy relationships
Right.
with things and understand moderation.
Right. There's so many things there, and I'm very passionate about a lot of these things, like added sugars. One of the problems is we just eat too much sugar. Just too
Yeah,
much calorically dense food. We say ultra high processed or highly processed,
yeah,
and processing is not bad per se, but typically what we mean is like highly processed. Like, yeah, I don't even know what the chemicals that have been on that food and have
yeah.
gone into that, and there's a list of 30 things. That tends to be more bad than milk is, excuse me, pasteurized. That's processed. Like a
Hmm.
whey protein is turned into powder. That's processed, right?
Yeah,
Even your peanut butter is processed,
yeah.
mechanically and chemically. So we can't get so staunch when we hear something. And this is maybe circling back to marketing and media. Like the travesty of media and marketing is like kind of our health culture is a little screwed right now because of the way that media marketing and influencers work,
Hmm.
because we should eat less sugar in general,
Hmm.
because in the West it's so calorically dense. There's so much highly processed stuff, so
Hmm.
you're getting maybe not good wheat,
Hmm.
grains, mixed with sugar, mixed with fat. And like I just saw yesterday, a crumble cookie. There's this one crumble cookie that has 125 grams of sugar in it, which I think in terms of added sugar is like 4 or 5 times as much added sugar as you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we could all agree that that's bad. It's very tasty. But then you take that to the extreme and you have no sugar, and then you don't have a healthy relationship with it. Like I
Mhm.
grew up and I was the kid who didn't get dessert much, not because of any nutritional thing, just because I don't know, probably because we were poor or something.
We're a
But
dessert family. Not everyone's a
yeah,
dessert family.
yeah, we didn't have dessert
Yeah.
often, so
Yeah.
then I would steal stuff out of the fridge or like
Yeah.
steal candy and hide it and eat
Yeah.
it in bed
Yep.
and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Whereas my kids, occasionally they go through phases, where they'll steal treats, but they'll be like offered cake and they're like, I don't want any. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Yep.
Or they'll eat a couple bites and be like, it's too sweet. I don't want any more. And
Yeah.
my brain can't handle it. I'm like, well, somebody's got to eat that. I guess I will. I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah.
But that mentality of scarcity,
Mhm.
creates a demand in our mind versus
Mhm.
for my kids, it's a little more available, but then they want it less,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Same.
which
Same
is
with
kind of
my kids.
interesting.
I mean, I remember my sister-in-law saying something about, I can't believe like it's just all there and they're not eating it. I was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that, scarcity model.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which, okay, so I don't always try to bring it back to business or marketing, but I am fascinated by what you do and how you do it, and thinking about scarcity and just some of the kind of coursework that I've been going through and learning more about. Because a lot of what we do is a lot of big projects and a lot of kind of solo creative things. So I need a big
Mhm.
video, I need a big website, things like that.
Mhm.
Over the last 5 years, we've really differentiated into other areas so that we can provide a more comprehensive media and marketing approach for our clients so that we can actually move the needle somehow as opposed to just creating a thing and giving them a thing.
Mhm.
So, in that regard, there's a lot of psychology in marketing, in deals, in sales, and especially when you can commoditize something or productize something, um, and create a demand and then provide for that demand. And that works a lot more with commodities or with retail or B2C versus B2B.
Mhm.
So, kind of coming back to what you guys do and development and fundraising, what does that, yeah, what does that kind of look like for what you guys do and how you do it?
Yeah. So great question. Our company, Petrus Development, works with organizations that need to understand how to best keep their operations sustainably moving through good finances. In the nonprofit sector world, I have yet to encounter an organization that always says, we have enough money. We're doing everything that we can. We have enough money. We don't need any more. And the
Hmm.
reality of the situation, every organization, nonprofit, for profit, every family, you always could use more money. There's more things to have, to purchase, to
Mm-hmm.
do, needs. The reality is that is something that we are constantly needing to expand upon. So our company helps nonprofits understand their capabilities within their market sector that they're serving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that we consistently help our organizations that we're working with help them understand their true mission and vision. Oftentimes we look at organizations, they'll contact us and say, hey, we need to raise $2 million, we have to build something,
Right.
help us raise that
Yeah.
money.
Specific project.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have to bring it back to, what are you doing, who are you serving, how are you serving those people, and what happens if you're not able to serve those people. And we
Oh,
ask
yeah.
the
That last part's
organizations to
interesting.
really do that. So many
Yeah.
times we work with organizations, and you probably know this. We're doing these great things. We're housing all these people. We're providing them shelter. We're providing them clothes. We're doing all these great things in the community. It's all about what we are doing, when we oftentimes need to be reflective about what happens if we aren't doing.
Right.
So When we first work with an organization, it's really important that we help them understand, are they able to articulate those things? Because sometimes they can they tell the story, but it's not in a format that's easily relatable to the public. So we really help them understand what that looks like. Can you tell your story?
Mm,
What does that story look like? Are you able to tell it to different audiences? You know this in media.
hmm.
There are going to be certain audiences that receive messages in applicable ways that resonate with them, and there are going to be certain audience that need to hear something in a different format.
Right.
And the crux of small nonprofits, especially that are usually needing to work with us because they need to raise money, is they have limited staff, they have limited ability to even understand their messaging, and are
Right.
not sure how to change that messaging to the different audiences. So
Yeah.
we're going to come in, we're going to look at what you're doing, who you're serving, and what that story looks like, and help you craft that. Um,
Mm,
in that portion of what we're doing is oftentimes when we'll work with media specialists and marketing specialists like yourselves.
hmm.
What sort of social media presence do we need to have? What does that story need to look like in print media? If we're going to do a video, what does our video need to look like? How do we need to highlight the best aspects of what we're doing and how we're serving? So that's often how we work with marketing and media specialists. So I'm always I always love talking to you all because you understand what that story really
Hmm.
looks like, and how we need to share that. So we work with the organization to do that. So once we've established kind of what that story is, what the product is, what they're doing in the world, we're going to help them understand what their donor possibilities look, what the donation possibilities look like in the world.
Sure.
We often work with organizations that raise X amount of dollars every year, and they're really comfortable with that dollar amount, and they do the same thing over and over,
Mm,
and they're not really looking at how to expand that. We know that people give to people, and people give to projects that they love. And
hmm.
so many organizations we work with have not been able to adequately bridge that gap
Mm,
to communicate with people personally. And so a lot of what we do is just helping these organizations learn how to talk to their benefactors in a
mm.
way that is interpersonal, that's strategic, and that helps move that financial donation needle higher and higher.
Hmm.
So go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So storytelling being critical, understanding what the story is, what the need is, and how to communicate that. Now, are there any mechanisms too, psychological, that kind of come into play? Because again, with more commodity based things, it's a little easier to be like, well, there's a limited amount of these, there's a quantity, buy now or get the
Mhm.
discount now. The discount will be gone. With donations and fundraising, it's not the same thing, but I'm assuming the same types of philosophies or psychologies could work, but you're probably not like donate now or this goes away. The false scarcity. Um,
Well, sometimes there is. I mean, sometimes an
okay.
organization, I actually just had a conversation with a client before our call today that had to execute a capital campaign to raise a couple $1,000,000 because their roof was falling down.
Mm,
They had staff changes, they had some program disruption, they had some real issues with the infrastructure of their organization. And if the scenario were a perfect scenario and they contacted us and we did some evaluation and they said we want to raise $2 million to expand and grow, after doing some investigation and interviews with their demographic base, I would have said, this is not the right time. You have to build relationships with people. You have
mm,
to do some hard work on your side to build up trust and transparency, and then you can go out and raise money. They were in a situation where their roof was falling down. They had to raise the money. So we do encounter situations where it is a very specific goal, a financial goal, and a time when something has to be accomplished. And
right.
when we encounter situations like that, There's not a lot of psychology into it because it's an immediate need. It's usually an evident need. The only thing that we can do is be transparent with people
Sure.
and
Right.
be really good in our communication style.
Right. Right. It's not artificial. It's actual. Like, we
Yeah,
got to get this
yeah,
done or the roof's going to fall down. Like, that is not
yeah.
a lie. This
hmm
is for real.
hmm On the opposite end of the spectrum, when we're working with organizations that we're helping them build their sustainable development efforts and their sustainable funding, it's all about, and you'll hear this a lot of times if you read any books about fundraising or sales, even, it's all about the relationship. And
Right.
you hear that, okay, so what does that really mean? Well, that really means that every single person that is a financial benefactor to your organization should have a personal relationship with some sort of staff member, volunteer, leadership person within that organization,
hmm
because we want to know on the organizational side what motivates that donor. What is
Mm,
that donor interested in? Because if you can match the need of your organization with the interest of your donor, you are going to have success in raising money that's necessary. You're going to have success making more connections, and you're going to have more success bringing that donor in to be a bigger champion of that organization moving forward because they feel fulfilled with what their personal motivators are in terms of the organization helping meet those needs. And so we
yeah.
really work with organizations to help understand what that looks like. How do you have a conversation with someone that has been a longtime donor to your organization and ask them to make a larger gift? Well, you understand what their giving capacity really is. You
hmm
do that by visiting their house, talking to them, understanding their vacation patterns, and all these sort of contextual things that you
Mm,
find will help paint a story. You understand what motivates them, what really are they passionate about, and what in your organization helps fulfill that passion of theirs. That's where that perfect recipe, that great harmony comes into place. And that's what so many organizations don't do
mm,
because of fear. It takes a lot sometimes to pick up
right.
a phone and make an appointment with someone. Um, Lack of direction, lack of staff, all these sort of lack of vision, even those sort of
Yeah, and
things.
experience and
hmm
and yeah, I mean, it's interesting too to hear you say that they're matching their interest with the need of the organization, and maybe that even changes as well to match somebody's interest. But it's kind of that idea of pain points for a potential customer, for instance, and then providing, like, here's how I solve that pain point for you. Let me solve
hmm
this, let me solve this one,
Yeah.
let me solve this one, let me solve. Are you ready to buy or donate or invest?
Yeah.
Or it's like slightly different language, but very similar idea.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. It takes time to understand that that is how your organization has to operate to be successful. If you look
hmm
at all the big successful organizations in the world, whether it be nonprofit or for profit, it's because they have continually shifted their product availability to meet the needs and the desires of their
right,
consumers.
right.
And we as an organization sometimes, well, it's, we're the National Heart Association. We provide this and we've always done this. And well, yes, you're still providing that, but have you been able to shift to really understand what resonates with your donors? Is it now that not we're just providing CPR in our community, but we're providing CPR and AED, and now we have an app where we can access some of these, great tips if someone's having a heart attack, or I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, but we have to constantly be willing to look at our demographics and adapt. And so many of our organizations just don't have the ability or the foresight to be able to do that on their own.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. So, like, for us in our business, we've been successful through the years because we've created really great projects with really great clients. We like to say, choose a partner, not a price, right? We'll figure it
hmm
out and we'll work together to solve whatever the need or the problem is that the client may have. But what we don't really have is kind of the commoditized, productized items that solve a lot of kind of pain points. So it's kind of something that we're investigating as well, because going off of just creating great work for great clients works insofar as they can recommend you.
Mhm.
But in terms of bringing in new leads, it's just not the same thing as like a real dialed in sales funnel where we say,
Yeah.
hey, is this you? And is this a problem you have? Well, here's how you can solve that. Here's how you can solve this. Here's how you can solve
Mhm.
this. And so we're really trying to strategize, kind of like you're saying, with the storytelling and asking the question and then understanding the interest and providing maybe showing some need so that
Mhm.
they can get involved, but thinking about those elements and how that plays into our business. And again, since big video is not necessarily something that we can point to and say, well, if you do this video, then you will reach more people, you will get this very specific
Mhm.
ROI. So
Mhm.
is that, in your guys' model, is that kind of how you guys work? Are you able to say, yeah, we'll help you fundraise this much and money back guarantee? Or, kind of what's your value proposition that you have?
Yeah, so we have the ability to control many things in our world with consulting. I can control who I talk to. I can control my strategy that I've devised. I can control the implementation of that strategy. I
Mm,
can make sure my consultants are on site when they say that they're going to be on site and make the phone calls that they can need to make. The one thing I cannot control is the amount of money people are going to give to a project.
mhm,
And so I can never come into an organization, and I think it's really unethical for me to be able to say, you're going to raise X amount of dollars.
mhm,
Because at the end of the day, I can't control that. You can't control that. People have free will to give when they want to give and give how much they can give. And sometimes you can do everything picture perfect and it just doesn't happen. And
mm,
so I think it's really important that when we work with organizations that we are very upfront and honest with that. I know some of our competitors will come in and say, we have a list of donors we're going to connect you with, and we can guarantee you're going to be able to raise X amount of dollars. And I think that lends itself to bad business practices. It
mm,
may encourage an organization to accept a donation that doesn't necessarily align with their mission. It may encourage an organization to create new programs or processes that don't necessarily go with your organization. I don't know how many organizations I have started working with, and they're in the middle of trying to apply for a grant, and they're creating a program for this grant because the grant money looks really good.
mhm,
And that's just like a business practice. If you have a program that the grant can support, that's great. But unless you were already planning on developing this program, we shouldn't just be creating something because we think that we're going to get some money, because that's not
mhm,
sustainable. So I think it's really important that we, and our company philosophy is, we will give you all the tools and we will work with you, and track record and best practices says that you should be able to do this. But sometimes at the end of the day, it doesn't happen. In the business world, we talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, and a lots
right,
of times
right,
we
right.
we see, okay, we've met our KPIs because our results are really, really great. And I think that's important. And I think it's important to have metrics. And
Mhm,
um, we need to think about this. But there are other things that we can look at to make sure, are we really doing what we should be doing, and that at the end of the day is going to be the thing that is sustainable, and that's going to be able to really keep us going.
yeah, yeah. So I think kind of in the fundraising world too, it might be a little more direct of like, hey, we need to create this endowment. So, pick a parish and think about like priestly vocations, like so we can have good vocations for the next
Yeah.
20 years or whatever. Like that's obviously like a success, and you've calculated, okay, we need 20 million in this account, and then that can support this many seminarians for this many
Yeah.
years, and that's a good start. So the outcome, the key performance indicator, I guess, is if you hit that number,
Yeah.
right? With video, we're still kind of ruminating on this, and maybe need to do more research. We can certainly do views, we can
Hmm.
certainly do shares, we can get all that, and that is good. an indicator of success though. And I don't
Mhm.
know that it necessarily is like it's one-to-one.
Mhm.
So that's where we, need to kind of figure out the value proposition, because like, if somebody comes and they want to do a big video, like I would be very happy to make it for them and provide living wages for my team.
Yeah.
But maybe before that, I'd rather it be an appropriate use of their investment.
Mhm.
And in order to understand if it's an appropriate use of their investment, it's difficult because you have to understand a result, or you have to have some way of judging it.
Yeah.
And it's tough when it's just something like video. I think we can get a little closer with something like website or
Yeah.
digital and social
Mhm.
investment, or these other things that are maybe a little more kind of commoditized, a little more productized, where we can say, you need this sign, and we can show you went from, you know, 10 people looking at your website to now you have 500 a day, which is then leading towards this many outreaches or this many
Mhm.
people showing up at your store or your church, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And maybe specifically thinking about parishes. We were talking today, and one of my staffers was saying that she's like, yeah, it's such a huge negative when she's looking up a church where to go and she sees a really bad website. She's like, well, if this is the quality of the website, what's the quality of the church and the faith?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you think about that, like we gild our churches,
Mhm.
we put gold there, we get the high altars and beautiful Gothic artwork and all of that, and spend a lot of money, importantly there, because it raises our hearts and our minds to heaven. It's evangelical. But then we crap the bed, because, well, we have some volunteers and they did a website,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're doing a disservice. We're actually disinviting people
Yeah.
from the church. So there's some of those elements that we can more think about in terms of what is your return on
Mhm.
this investment. Video's tough though. Video's
Yeah.
nebulous. I don't know. How do you guys think about video in terms of promoting the work that you do?
Yeah. So, we love video. We've used video like a lot of personally as a company. We've used video on our website. We've used it in our
Hmm.
social media. We try to have videography at a lot of our events, capturing um, because it is about that storytelling and it shows the relational side of people,
Hmm.
versus a blog where you can read something but it's pretty static. And video allows us to capture the humanness of who we are, and again, that's at the end of the day that relational aspect that is going to move the needle.
Hmm.
Um, all of our big campaigns. So anytime our client works with us and they need to raise money over $5 million, we automatically work with a videographer
Hmm.
to capture that story on so many elements of that story. So the volunteers, the benefactors, the people that we're serving, all of those pieces I think are very important. Um, you mentioned, like you feel like you don't know how to be able to look at that ROI with video, and then I would ask for you to really consider, instead of that mindset of the ROI or those KPIs, to look think about the concept of OKRs, and those are objectives and key results. So like,
Mm.
what is the objective of your videos? Can you define that, and are you meeting that objective? And so if you can look at what your product is doing, and are you understanding that objective, and are you delivering on that objective, you have a win. And that is a win for everyone. It's a win for the organization, it's a win for you. And it doesn't matter how many people see it, because your objective and your goal was to create this product that shows the humanness of people.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I like that terminology as well. I think the question that I have, the follow up, is, how do you say what that value is, what that proposition is, right? Because you can do a video for
Mhm.
$10,000, you could do a video for 25, you could do 50, you could do $100,000. We're pitching on an RFP for a short film that's upwards of $300,000,
Mhm.
just because of the scope of things that go into it. Especially when looking, maybe a $5 million project. When we talk to a company, We can look at the ad spend or the marketing spend, excuse me,
Mhm.
of successful companies in a certain demographic and say, okay, in your demographic, you're going to be 8%. Like, let's look at 8% of your overall revenue. That's how much you should be spending on your marketing. How much are you spending? Some portion of that is each of these different channels or whatnot. When you're looking at like a $5 million project, how do you come up with the value of something like video? Because we know video is so engaging. It's a great way when somebody's not in front of somebody else, and even when they are, to be able to emotionally speak to them in a way
Mhm.
that even a personal connection maybe couldn't do. So, your OKR, where
Mhm.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I want a few people to give
Mhm.
significant donations and reference the video
Mhm.
as one of those key components, right?
Yeah.
And when we're raising 5 million, a gift of $100,000 that was convinced because of a video, you
Mhm.
know, that's a pretty good OKR or KPI or return on
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah.
But what's valuable? 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. How do you evaluate that?
I think that's hard. I wish I was the business guru that could give you a good, analytical statistic to say that. But I think for us in my role in the company, in what we have determined is the best practice for us, is that we have a variety of tools that we have the ability to employ when working with a client.
Mm-hmm.
And um, we have to cast a very wide net because again it goes back to we're going to have people that receive things on different wavelengths and messages, and it's important. And so we know that to continue to cast a wide net, because especially when you're looking for like a church, you have all ages, you have all demographics, you
Mm-hmm.
have ethnicities, you just so many. We know that we have to have that human element in there, and there is no better way to do that through a video,
Mm-hmm.
other than person to person, which obviously is standard. But other than that, we know that we have to have that. So for us, it's just been standard practice. And at the end of the day, if you ask me to put a number on it, it really comes down to what that budget looks like, and
Mm-hmm.
how you charge the client, and what's fair market for the client, and what they can afford versus what you can afford to give them and still pay your fees. We recently had a client that all of our contracts have a get out of jail free card, I like to call it. So if they're not
Mm.
satisfied with us, they can cancel. And we have a
Yeah, it's
90
like your
day,
your
yeah,
guarantee, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a 90-day fee or 90-day notice. And they really wanted it to be a little shortened. And when I explained, that is in there because at the end of the day, are the fees that come in from we charge you go to support our organization, our business, and our budget. And if you suddenly take that money away without 30 days, that throws off the whole budget. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a small business, you're a small business, you know that. And
Right. Right.
so we want to be charitable and generous, and we want to give them an opportunity if things aren't working out to leave. But we have to be mindful and good stewards of the money and our employees too. And sometimes that comes with a dollar figure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that, and that's a lot of kind of commodity marketing. The idea of like this guarantee, whatever
Yeah.
it is, there's different levels of it. I wonder too, and that potentially something when we're doing a longer marketing engagement with somebody that we could consider as well. A guarantee with a cancellation, but then like, hey, you can cancel, but whatever our kind of goals are, if we can still hit those, maybe you could reconsider, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously, if a relationship's not working, you want to both get out of that as soon as you
Yeah.
can. But more often than not, especially with something that takes time, I think the challenge is somebody might want results after a month, whereas it takes three,
Yeah.
6, 12, 18. You were saying
Hmm.
you're in Montana.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a
Yeah.
it's a investment. It's even faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we are a people of faith. And in
Hmm.
the Catholic world, we attend mass, daily, weekly, whatever that is, and we witness the miracle of the unbelievable every time
Mm.
we're in mass.
Hmm.
And if we, of people of faith, can believe that and honor that, then we can believe that we can raise a couple $1 million to support our project or our infrastructure, whatever it needs to be.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's something that excites me about the nonprofit world and the Catholic world. And like you said, you've never come across a nonprofit that's been like, yeah, we have an excess of money that we want to spend. It's always like, oh yeah, we're a nonprofit, so just keep that in mind. But it's interesting. I feel like the nonprofits who know or have fundraised, they understand. Yeah, they're just one donor away from maybe doing this big project,
Yeah.
or a couple donors away,
Hmm.
versus asking a small business like, hey, can you give us the nonprofit rate or be cheaper? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I really can't lower my costs, but we could assist you. We could help you find some donors that can
Yeah.
can get into that. Um, and that's something I think we talked about this too, because we talked about on the phone after the conference, and it's kind of tied into this series, the Dare to Believe series. What if it was all
Yeah.
true? Where we're considering spinning up a foundation so
Hmm.
that we can help nonprofits to market by providing some
Yeah.
funding,
Hmm.
right? So being able to use our connections into the kind of philanthropy world and bringing the people who want to create, good evangelical media with the groups who need help and are trying to do something, kind of bridge that gap and offer that
Hmm.
our opportunity. So that's one of the reasons why too. I keep my hands keep coming over here because as you're talking, I keep taking notes on a lot of these good ideas. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, I appreciate that.
we can't presume that people, the world, our communities aren't willing to support these good acts. And so many organizations, even just your own idea, we're held back with I don't know if we can find these donors. I don't know what that looks like, or can we do this? Are people willing to support that? We can't
Mm,
presume that they're not until we go out there
right,
and ask them. And so
right,
we have to be bold and we have to go out in faith and
yes,
believe that if we are really, doing this work of evangelization and discipleship, that we will meet the right people and we will have the right conversations. We have to do the work.
yeah,
It's not just going to
right,
fall in our
right,
lap, but
right.
we then connect with those people that help us and empower us and lead us in a strategic way to be able to execute and do that.
Yeah, well, it's like that idea. Work like everything depends on us. Pray like everything depends on God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's probably just because I'm just that stubborn. Like or it's arrogance. Hopefully it's not arrogance. Hopefully it's not ego. But just thinking about this Dare to Believe series, like we haven't figured out how to get it, more out there and fund it. But I've had so many good conversations. People are so positive about it. And I'm just going to keep running
Hmm.
until, maybe discernment shuts a door. But a door hasn't been shut yet. Doors just
Yeah.
keep getting open. So we just keep forging forward like it will happen. And, as long as we're not doing things irresponsibly,
Yeah.
um, I think we can continue and we're on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that when we open ourselves up to people and to conversations, things happen.
Hmm.
One of the things about me, if you get to know me, personally, is people say you have this crazy life. I've been on television shows. I've been in music videos. I've won crazy contests, and all my friends are always like, how is this person like? You should write a book. This is crazy. And the thing I say is, I just put myself out there. I put myself out there. I meet people. I am adventurous. I try things. I have hard, goals in my life. I talk, I meet, I connect, and I ask questions. And
Hmm.
all of those things lends itself to this crazy life that I've been granted the ability to walk through. And I think anytime you're on some sort of discipleship path and you have an idea, you put yourself out there and you make yourself known and you meet people and you invite people into that space that help you understand what that discernment really looks like.
Hmm.
We automatically assume that discernment gives us a very clear path, a yes or
Right,
no.
right.
And sometimes the discernment is just that waiting and the understanding and the journey of that yes or no. And that's
Mhm.
a very discerned path as well.
Well, and kind of to that point, a friend of mine just jumped over on Instagram, Tabitha, who's another small business owner, voiceover artist, and we talk about this a lot. And I think so in terms of discernment as well, like not stopping, right?
Mhm.
So continuing to walk forward, and the idea of you're either growing or you're shrinking, or like in faith, you're moving towards the Lord or you're moving away. So you
Mhm.
always want to be doing those positive things to move towards the things that you want. And we're probably our biggest obstacle,
Mhm.
like all the businesses who fail, like 1 in 5 succeeds after so many years. I think that most of those other ones just give up. You hit some hard things and you
Mhm.
give up. And those who are around are the ones who didn't give up through the
Yep.
hard things.
Mhm.
Like early on in our business, we had half paychecks and things like that. And then you kind of get to a place where you don't have that. And I feel like complacency sets in.
Yeah.
And then for us, like through COVID, people just were knocking down the door because they needed so much marketing. We
Mhm.
stopped marketing ourselves.
Yeah.
And then 2023 kind of corrected. And now we're
Mhm.
like, oh no, we gotta actually market ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, we're still kind of doing all that word of mouth, like is still
Yeah.
really great for us and still huge, but all the digital stuff kind of went down the toilet, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh wow, when we don't just have a booming economy, we really need to make sure that we're
Yeah.
doing the things that we help other companies do as
Yeah. You
well.
have to oversell. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I say this in my business too. Like, things move slower than we think that they are. So you constantly have to oversell. You have to put yourself out there, and it always works out. It always falls into place. But you always have to be pushing yourself forward, and understanding what those mistakes are, and realizing that they're only mistakes if you don't learn from them and haven't been able to course correct.
Right. Right. Yeah. We are live too. So if anyone is in either Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram has any questions for Tara or myself, we're here for a little bit longer. But it is so okay. So it's 4:15, and I don't want to go
I'm
too
5:15, so
long.
I'm like
Oh, that's
I'm
right.
it's after work. I'm Eastern time. You're good.
Well, you got a run to get in, right? You're
Yeah,
training for the marathon.
yeah, I have a little bit of running, but that's
I
okay.
see. I feel like you're putting it off right now. You're like, no, no, no. We can keep talking. Like, I don't
Yeah,
need to
no, it's
run.
good. Because I was thinking
Um,
I had to go to the gym. This is a busy time of gym, so it's to be a little later anyway. So
yeah. Well, we do have a fun part of the show that we kind of like to close with. Let's see. I think
okay,
this will
great.
work if I play it. You ready?
Okay.
That's right. We're going to play Two Truths and a Lie. That was my little girl's a couple years ago, actually, which was
Okay.
really fun. So I did not prep you, and that's a part of the fun. You're going to come
Okay.
up with 3 facts about yourself,
Okay.
and one of them is a lie, and we
Okay.
got to guess. So I can vamp as well.
Okay.
Um, Anyone who is watching online, if you happen to guess correctly, I can send you one of these sweet coasters because this is a happy hour. And Tara and I are just drinking responsibly because she's got to run. And my wife reminded me that I have a meeting at 6 and then I have to go pick up kids at 6:45. And so I'm just not done till like 8. So I am also drinking responsibly today. But you could win your very own Let's Backflip coaster, which Tara, as a thank you for being on the show, will send you one of these as well.
Well, thank
And
you.
we're going to get you one of these shirts too. So I'll get your information
Fantastic.
once we
Yeah,
finish, and you can
absolutely.
rep the sweet
Okay.
brand.
Okay.
So do you need me to vamp more, or are you good?
No,
You
I
ready?
think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Okay, let me get ready to type this down. All right, go for it.
Um, my family breeds dachshunds.
Mm.
I have been to 47 different states. I have been to Disney World over 100 times.
Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, so number one, your family breeds dachshunds. How
Mm-hmm.
do you spell dachshund? Is it like dachshund?
Dachshunds.
Dachsh. That's terrible. Was that German?
Yes.
Dachshund. It's
Uh-huh.
pronounced dachshund,
Dachshund.
not dachshund.
Not
Um,
not Dachshund or Dachshund. Dog. You know,
yeah,
weenie dog. It's a wiener
Dachshund.
dog.
Yeah, wiener dog. Let's just cut to the chase here.
Yep.
So your family breeds wiener dogs. How long
hmm
has your family been breeding them?
I am a fourth generation breeder.
Wow. So you breed them too. Oh,
Do I?
all right, all right. Yeah, I like you're playing the game really, really well. Number two, you've been to 47 different states. So we have talked about your travel.
hmm
And as a consultant, it makes sense that you travel. That's a really good way to lie, though. It could be like 46 states, and you're like, I go to 47. So um, you have a very easy way about you in conversation. So I could not tell. I was staring right at you when you were saying these. I could not tell what your tell was. So I'd never want to play poker with you. Just to be clear. Uh, and then you've been to Disney World over 100 times. We didn't talk about Disney. You do have two kids. They're older now, over 100 times. That would be a lot to go to Disney. Um, let's see. You're in Indiana.
hmm
Where have you always been in Indiana, or
I lived
where
on
do
the
you
East
live?
Coast after undergrad for a few years. My husband's from Connecticut. We lived there. We started our family there, but Midwesterner for the most part.
Man, oh man! Just from hearing these things, I kind of want to choose number three because I feel like it'd be hard to go to Disney World that many times because that's Florida, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Disneyland is California. Oh, let's see. And I've been to Disney World with my kids a bunch, and I need a year break in between when I go. I love it, but I need a break. Um, all right, let's see. Family Rigs Dachshunds. Been to 47 different states. Yeah, I kind of feel like number one and number two are true. I feel like I'm gonna pick number three. I'm gonna see if anybody else is in chat. Tabs. Oh, audio is better today. Thank you, Tabs. Tabs is a voiceover artist, and the last time we did this, we had an audio error. And after the fact, she like texted me. She's like, "Hey, the audio is crappy." I was like, "Dude, tell me during it
I
so I
mean,
can
yeah,
fix
yeah,
it."
yeah.
Thanks, Tabs. So you vote Disney as well. Okay, let's see. Adam Carter Brown, if you're around. We're playing Two Truths and a Lie. Tara says her family breeds dachshunds. She's been to 47 different states. And she's been to Disney World over 100 times, and we're guessing. We're trying to figure it out. I would say Disney. We'll give him maybe 30 more seconds. Oh, I think he's gone. All right. And Tabs, what's Disney? All right. What is the lie?
The
Reveal the
lie
answer.
is that I do not breed dachshunds. I have a
Oh,
dachshund. I am a fourth generation dachshund owner, but I did not have the patience to
oh,
breed them. So,
oh man, that's a good one. That's a good lie. And you
yeah.
came out
So,
first. People don't come out first with their lie typically.
yeah. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I don't know the psychology of that. So, been to most of the states. I have not been to um, Alaska. I have not been to um, Louisiana, and I have not been to North Dakota.
Oh,
Randomly, I know. So,
yeah.
so those are my, and I've been to Disney a lot. Now, the caveat is my older daughter lives in Florida and she works for Disney. And
Oh,
so
that makes sense. Yeah, I did remember that she lives in Florida
yeah,
now, but I was
she's a
like,
cast member. I
yeah.
go, this year alone, I've probably been, I don't know, 20 times just in this
Oh,
calendar year.
wow. Okay.
So,
Does she hook you up?
yeah, so
Okay.
she has free passes for friends and family.
Oh, that's
Prior to
awesome.
that, like we were a family that vacationed there sometimes twice a year,
Oh, yeah.
with annual passes and all those sort of things. So I definitely set the stage, and now it's just been
Yeah.
like crazy. So
Oh, that's great. I love Disney. My family, we've been there. We've been to Disney, done their parks, and then
yeah,
done Universal and those
yep,
parks. We just don't want to do it with a baby, so we're probably not
Yeah.
going to go for another year or two.
Yeah, it's hard. We've done it with all stages of the girls, but now it's easy and it's free, so it's even better.
Oh, it's great. I know that's what I want to do with my kids. Like send them to work at places that I want to go to. Like
Yeah,
you go work at
exactly.
the movie theater, you go work at Disney, you go,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, absolutely.
that'd be fantastic. Tabs, thanks for hanging. See you later. And I think Alexis voted number 2. Alexis, who's on our team here,
Okay.
she thought you hadn't been to 47 states.
Yeah.
Proven wrong.
I know. I need to get those contracts.
Yeah. Also, North Dakota. I mean, you could just drive through it and stop at like I don't know if the Corn Palace. I can't remember if it's
Yeah,
North
yeah.
Dakota or
I am the type of person that does stop at these oddity
yeah.
places. Like, I follow these crazy Facebook groups, oddball places. I stop, I take pictures.
It's worth it.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
adventurous. I'll go out and explore that. So that is
it's
definitely on
fun.
a list. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one was Alaska and would you say Arizona or Kansas or
Louisiana.
Louisiana? Okay.
I know, but we're actually having an event next year there, so I'll
Ah,
go. I don't know why I haven't gone. I mean,
you
I
should
have
make
gone
North
I have
Dakota
gone to
your
Mardi
epic
Gras, I haven't
50th.
done anything. Yeah, I know. So
Yeah, that'd be like the least epic, but potentially the
I
most
know.
epic
I
50th
know.
state.
Mark it off. So
Yeah, my buddy just did his 50th state. It was Alaska. They did,
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
a cool trip up there. So,
yeah.
well, that's kind of what we got for today.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to plug or share? We
No,
can. I
just
think I can throw up your guys' website.
if you are an organization that needs to understand how you can sustainably raise money, reach out to us. We have a lot of solutions. So many people think that they have to come to us when they need to raise millions of dollars. At the end of the day, we want to help you when you are just trying to make your budget and keep it sustainable. We're all trying to build the kingdom of God. We're all doing that in different ways. And our way that we do it from the Petrus standpoint is by helping you realize your potential. So we have a lot of different solutions available at all different price points. We have in-person coaching solutions. We have virtual. We have a lot of just really good free resources too. So we want to be able to help you realize what it looks like if you had more money to grow your mission.
Mm, I love it. That's a great pitch. It's like you've pitched that before.
You know,
All
I have a
right.
great team of people, and we're always looking to work with great partners. So
Mm,
I thank you for inviting me here today. I do feel like it was providential that we met at the Eucharistic Congress, and I was
hmm
just on the prowl to add another videographer group to our catalog of people that we work with, and so. I think we had a great conversation and hit it off. So, thank you for having us today or having me
Yeah.
today and allowing us to talk about what we do and just get to know us as a company personally as well.
Yeah. I'm so happy to connect. And it was a real pleasure. Again, I think you have just a comfortable way about you. Like, sometimes I get nervous for these, but since we'd already had that conversation
Yeah.
before, and I was like, just really looking forward to hanging out with you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with me on the
Yeah. I'll
internet.
have to come back after my run and we'll have
That's
a
right.
beverage, a real
Yeah.
beverage. And
Yeah. Just so I'm aware, what is your favorite drink? What would be your drink of choice?
so I like a Moscow Mule.
Mm.
But I'm also one of these mixologists. I like to make my own concoctions of things, and I will throw in a lot
Ooh,
of different
dangerous.
things. And
Yeah.
I don't like tequila, so anything
Okay.
non-tequila based, I'm usually
Sure.
good with. I generally gravitate to a vodka base because it's more of a neutral base, and you can
Right.
add
You
all
can
these
kind of
different
make it
great
whatever you
things.
want.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right now, ours is the Bouvardier or the Negroni, which is
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a Bouvardier is like a Manhattan plus
Yeah.
Campari,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
Negroni is you just switch the bourbon for
Yeah.
the gin. But if we get to hang out, which I'm assuming at some point in the future we'll be able to hang out,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you to try some good tequila. I was not a big tequila person until I started having some of like
Like,
Terramana,
yeah, yeah.
just some good stuff, and it's
I
even like sipping,
totally
like so
I
good.
totally know this.
I
I
want to
mean,
convert people.
my tequila experience is like Jose Cuervo at when I
Yes.
was like 20.
Yep.
And
Yeah, we've all been there.
because of that I have strayed away. I 100%
Yeah.
know that there is probably better stuff out there that I have yet to, try.
Yeah, and I'm here to share the good word of tequila, so we'll get that
Absolutely.
going. So, thank you so much for coming on, and if you hang out,
Thank you.
even
Yeah.
after I
Yeah.
turn this off, I can
Yep.
make sure I get
Perfect.
your information and we can
Yep.
send you stuff. So,
Absolutely. Thank you.
awesome! Thanks for hanging, and thanks
Thank you.
internet for hanging with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.